Alright, what's going on, guys? It is that time of year once again. We're getting into the holiday season, and you know what that means. It's time to look back on everything that happened this year. And in the gaming sphere, the best place to do that is at the Game Awards. Now, the Game Awards are coming up on December 8th, and for those of you wondering, yes, I will be streaming it here on the channel. There's like a 99% chance that Elden Ring DLC is going to be announced there, and there's no way we can miss that, so make sure you're subscribed if you want to tune in for that. But with the Game Awards comes the competition of Game of the Year. Now, every year there are several different Game of the Year competitions that happen from all different showcases, like the Golden Joystick Awards, NYX, YGD, even IGN, but the one that matters the most is the Game Awards. And it looks like it's going to be a neck and neck competition between two games, Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. So let's get the elephant out of the room real quick. I know there's gonna be a lot of people out there who really don't care at all what game actually wins Game of the Year. I mean, who cares about the little trophy they get? But here's the thing you might not be considering. From a press standpoint and overall market notoriety, Game of the Year is actually a pretty big deal. If you had a game that is qualified for Game of the Year and you really enjoyed and want more of, probably the best encourager besides overall sales is award recognition. Now, there are a lot of other awards out there, but as I've mentioned, Game of the Year is the biggest one. And you'll probably recognize too, when a game wins Game of the Year, typically we see another marketing push and a resale under the guise of Game of the Year edition. And with Elden Ring poising to have a very big DLC, which by the way, if you want information on that, check out my recent videos, an Elden Ring Game of the Year edition could be huge. But even if we throw that out of the window, it's still just a matter of friendly competition. And with a race this close this year, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the verdict comes out to. Because while it might appear like a landslide one way, pretty much everything changed last night with the release of God of War Ragnarok. Now, I need to preface this because I don't want to make the Sony fans mad. I've dealt with y'all before, you guys are brutal. But obviously, here I am an Elden Ring channel, I am a diehard FromSoftware fan. But I understand the love for God of War. When God of War 2018 came out, I never actually owned a PlayStation up to that point, so I wasn't able to play the game, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to play it for quite a while. And I had also never played any of the God of Wars before that. But God of War 2018 completely took all of my attention. It had me going out and looking for PlayStations just so I could play it at all. And I was watching all the cutscenes just because I was so impatient. I wanted to learn everything about this game. And then the PS5s came out and I was lucky enough to get one. And the first game I downloaded was God of War. But something happened when I started playing it. I gotta be honest, I didn't enjoy the game at all. I know that sounds like blasphemy. How could somebody not enjoy this perfect game? I just really didn't. The story had already hooked me before I even bought the game. But there was just something about the way the exploration was structured and the way the combat made all the enemies feel like sponges that really turned me off. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that love that kind of combat. It's just not for me. And even though the game was not for me, I still respect it and think it deserves all the praise it gets. But now we have Ragnarok. The reviews are out, and they're dang near perfect across the board, but the same was true for Elden Ring. And now we have two perfect games going up against each other for Game of the Year. Elden Ring and God of War are really not much alike at all. I know people over on Twitter don't really think that way, but aside from being third-person action games, they're almost polar opposites. Elden Ring is an open-world, non-linear game with a convoluted story that you have to actively seek out, and quick, decisive combat where one wrong move means death. God of War is a story-focused linear game with combat that focuses on freedom of combo. So we really can't judge these games on what one does better than the other in regards to the gameplay because they're not trying to do anything similar. Your personal preference is going to be the deciding factor in which is better. So there really is no objective edge whenever you're actually holding the controller and playing the game. The only thing that might come close to that is performance, and we do know that on release Elden Ring did have some performance issues on PC. However, with God of War being handcrafted for one console, naturally it's going to perform up to its peak on that console. So I also don't think that's a fair metric to judge both games. The way I see Game of the Year being decided for these games are the things actually outside the game. So what are those exactly? The first one I'm going to take a look at is innovation. It's no secret that the reason God of War 2018 had such a big impact is because it revolutionized the series as a whole. It took a character that people knew and showed their story in a different way, without sacrificing what made the character special in the first place, and also allowed it to resonate with a wider audience. And through all of that, it tackled a different mythology that allowed people that were playing the game to learn something and feel like they were a part of those legends. But that was back in 2018, and it appears like Ragnarok is going to be more of the same. Now, that's not a bad thing. However, when it comes to what is remembered and what is recognized, innovation definitely has a factor in that. And Elden Ring was a massive innovator. It took FromSoftware's tried and true formula and evolved it in a way that nobody expected, to a point where people are considering Elden Ring to be the best open world game on the studio's first attempt. And that's something that we have to consider is going to be in the minds of those deciding. But also in the thought process is recency bias, which is likely going to be the biggest asset for Ragnarok to potentially beat Elden Ring. We have less than a month before the Game Awards, and Elden Ring has been out for most of the year. What that means is that Elden Ring has had more time for us to see the cracks in its armor. When you play through a game for the first time, you don't notice some of the small things that might be seen as a detriment to the game. The big surprise and the bombastic moments can cover up some of the less than adequate details, and Ragnarok's faults might not appear for a while after the Game Awards. The game is going to be sitting pretty in the minds of those deciding the award. And even if you may think Elden Ring is that much better than God of War, the emotional connection to the game is going to be much stronger for God of War, given that it's fresh on the mind and the impact of Elden Ring has had time to wear off. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of a factor that becomes. But the biggest problem for Ragnarok is how much of an impact Elden Ring had on the gaming sphere as a whole. I don't think anybody could have predicted how successful Elden Ring was going to be. Everyone was talking about this game. You even had Elon Musk tweeting out his build, which may have been the worst build you've ever seen, but just shows the magnitude of reach Elden Ring had. And here's where that comes into play. Given that God of War is a PlayStation exclusive, there's a large amount of people that won't get to play it, and that's just simply not true for Elden Ring. Pretty much everyone I know, even if they're not a Souls fan, knew about Elden Ring and wanted to play it. And like God of War was for me, even if the game wasn't for them, you could still see the universal appreciation for the game. And simply from sales numbers alone, it sold 12 million in 2 weeks, which is just absolutely crazy and unprecedented for a FromSoftware game. So I think that's what it's really going to come down to. A battle of Elden Ring's overall impact versus the emotional connection and recognition of God of War's story being fresh on people's minds. Now, with my own bias, I have to say personally I believe Elden Ring is going to end up winning. I just think the overall impact that Elden Ring had is something that is so rare and isn't going to be forgotten for a very long time. Elden Ring set an entirely new precedent for game development, to a point where major developers couldn't even understand why people wanted to play the game so much. I think all you guys will remember the tweets that came out from other developers trying to discredit the game's success, but the fans and players pushed back so much, and it's simply just a credit to the game's innovation. And I think that is what's going to take the edge. But either way, it's going to be super close and very interesting to watch, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. Either way though, those are just my thoughts on it, and I hope you guys will tune in to the Game Awards stream on December 8th, and I also hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you in the next one.